Melanin's role is, in fact, even being rethought in medicine that, is it really something that just absorbs sunlight, or does melanin have a role in the immune system in the body? And is it really more of an antimicrobial kind of defense against bacteria? Because melanin is found throughout all the animal and vegetable kingdom. And melanin is the very thing that you have in your hair and in your skin that gives you the color. Whether you're more red, whether you're more brown, whether you're tan, whether you're not, is because the melanin produced by your skin in the parts of the cell called melanocytes, or the pigment of your skin. And some people who have a condition called vitiligo, where their skin looks blotchy and they have white patches, they don't make this pigment. When you're exposed to ultraviolet radiation, you make more of it. When you look at absorption curves in the test tube of melanin, this is what we're talking about. You can see in the blue part of the spectrum over here, the short wavelengths, which is higher energy, melanin has a lot of absorption, and it falls off a little bit, but it's in the same region that our body absorbs also light in forms of hemoglobin when you oxygenate your blood. It's also in that same region. And when you deoxygenate your blood, when the cells take the oxygen up, then you get the bluer blood, which is venous blood. And it's in the same region where melanin absorbs it. It has a very broad absorption of energy. Picture. Okay? It absorbs light and warmth very, very effectively, and it modulates something in the body. And melanin, you can think of, is very analogous to the chlorophyll. That's the green stuff in plants. What makes the plants green? Chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is the same molecule as hemoglobin that's in your blood, except hemoglobin has iron in the center and chlorophyll has magnesium in the center. It's like liquid green blood. Okay? Now melanin has the same kind of ring structures and so on, and it makes very complex structures, and not all melanins are the same, as we'll talk about in a minute. In fact, there's somebody even studying that and wondering whether energy is directly absorbed from the melanin in your skin and transformed into energy in your body. So it absorbs thousands of times more electromagnetic radiation actually than chlorophyll does, and chlorophyll is what we need to make proteins and sugars, especially sugars in the body. It exists in many other tissues, as I mentioned. It's actually a very important molecule in any woman who's having a baby, because the fetus has all this melanin in it, as I'll show you. Okay? And it's thought to be, by some people, a master molecule that actually steers how the body communicates. So in other words, melanin may play a much bigger role than just absorbing all this radiation, and when you get it into your body, it actually has a major effect on your immune system. Here's a picture of a baby at 35 days of pregnancy, and this is the eye of an embryo inside a mother. It's a very tiny little thing. Notice that the eye is pure melanin. That's an amazing picture, isn't it? To see all this melanin is inside, and when the embryo first forms, there is what's called the dark streak. It's all melanin.
This evening we're going to talk about something called melanin. It's what everyone is concerned about in the world. It's what they have a meeting about every 3 to 5 years. Germany, Italy, France, the U.S., they meet every 3 to 5 years and have a melanin convention and discuss the latest research in melanin. They have never invited a black scientist to that meeting in history. So we have had our own melanin conferences where we discuss this information involving melanin. Melanin is commonly associated with the pigment that causes your skin to be brown. So we figure that that's what melanin is about. But it's a little more than just the pigment that makes your skin brown. It's what we call a chemical key to life. The more melanin you have, the more civilized you are. The more melanin you have, the more psychic you are. The more melanin you have, the more information your brain can store. The more melanin you have, the faster the nerve transmissions are. Melanin is the chemical key to life. There is nothing else to study in science but melanin. We call it chemi, which means black. The people who study melanin particles call what they're studying, the science is called chemistry. What you call chemistry, the study of melanin particles that go around in an orbit, and we call them electrons, protons, solitons. Those are melanin particles. That's why we call it chemistry. And the country you come from is called Kemet, which some people call Egypt. There's nothing else to study but melanin. And if you study chemistry or heard of chemistry and haven't heard the word melanin, you have just been studying social science.
Black was the color of carbon, the key atom found in all living matter of our world. Carbon atoms linked together to form black melanin, the first chemical that could capture light and reproduce itself. The chemical key of life. And the brain itself, the chemical key to life. And the brain itself found to be centered around the black neuromelanin, inner vision, intuition, creative genius, and spiritual illumination were all found to be dependent upon the pineal gland's blood-borne chemical messengers that control skin color. Black dot was found to be the hidden doorway to universal knowledge of the past, present, and future. Melanin blackness studies at least 300,000 years. The black dot, the hidden doorway through which the transforming soul energy of Uraeus passes. Uraeus is the symbol of the transforming energy for the soul. The 7 levels of consciousness through which the black brain, spinal cord, endocrine relationship lies. I'm an anatomist, hematologist, microbiologist for many years, etc. And went to medical school, and I looked at many cadavers in the head area where we do a montage of the sectioning of the brain, and the deeper we get into the brain, the more melanin we see, except in Caucasian bodies that we use, you don't see as much.
As you can clearly see from these video clips, the pineal gland is regarded as the very seat of the soul in the body. It has as many light or photon receptors as the outer eye. It produces melatonin, DMT, and melanin, the most important chemicals in the body. The number one substance on that list, however, would be melanin. Everyone has melanin. You would die without it. But we just produce it in different stages and levels. And as we've seen, this dark substance called melanin is what allows us to receive vibrational frequency in the universe, which is what everything is made of. So in theory, the more melanin you have, the more frequencies you're able to receive. There's just one problem with that though. Consciousness. Even though melanin is an intelligent substance and works independently of its user, the more conscious the person who's carrying the melanin is, the more connected they will be to this magnificent substance and consequently the universe. The ancient Kemetan Moors were of the highest consciousness and therefore in full connection and manipulation of this dark divine substance. The human body and all organic matter is made up of 4 essential elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. And of these 4 atoms, carbon, the dark or so-called black substance that's left over after something is burned, which incidentally is where carbon gets its name, from the word ker, meaning fire or burn, is the base building block for everything in existence. If we were to break melanin down to one of these 4 basic elements, it would be carbon. The word chemistry actually comes from the word alchemy, which goes back to the original word for Egypt, Kemet, the dark land. With the word chem, K-E-H-M, or chem, C-H-E-M, meaning dark, or what most people mistake as the color black. Alchemy is the science of changing base metals into gold, or transforming one object into another with the use of mysterious knowledge. What most people would consider in those days is magic, which itself only means wisdom or wise knowledge. Chemistry is the science of changing one substance into another by the manipulation of its atoms and molecules. Now, as any scientist will tell you today, the only way to transmute or change one substance into another is to manipulate the amount of electrons in the base element of all matter, the carbon atom, or the dark substance known as chem, K-H-E-M, or chem, C-H-E-M. This is usually done through a chemical reaction, or with massive amounts of energy used to strip electrons from an atom and replace them with electrons from another. The ancestor Kemetans were able to do this with the aid of their melanin, being that melanin has trace elements of copper, and when tuned to the right frequency, is a superconductor of energy, just as anything dark traps and stores heat. Melanin can transmute or change different forms of energy into another, such as sound to heat, light to sound, and heat to light. This was discovered by the International Federation of Pigment Cell Societies at one of their conferences they hold on melanin every 3 years. More on this in the upcoming documentary, Are You Black or Greater Than That? So in essence, the ancient Kemetan Moors were masters in the manipulation of matter and consciousness, using the cobra serpent eye or pineal gland to see clearly in the application of this knowledge. As well, in the ancient civilizations of the Americas, you also see a depiction of a serpent or reptile with wings, with both the serpent and the wings or feathers representing higher knowledge. In fact, the name America itself comes from the Aboriginal name for the land, Amaruka, land of the feathered serpent or land of the dragon, called so because of the Mayan serpent god Kukulkan, who came to bring the people knowledge. And as we've shown, even in Asia, the gold dragon was a representation of the creator and higher knowledge. So then if throughout history the serpent and the third eye were revered and worshipped symbols of illumination, knowledge, and higher consciousness by mostly every culture and civilization in the world, why and how all over Europe did they become synonymous with a terrifying, destructive, fire-breathing beast who destroyed villages, ate men alive, and took children, virgins, and women as sacrifices? This gruesome change in depiction of what were once great symbols of illumination coincides with the beginning and rise of Islam and the Muslim conquest around the 7th century AD. It is at this time, when Muhammad began his mission to spread the Islamic faith at all costs, that we start to see in the representation among the European world of a solely malevolent, selfish, evil creature hell-bent on destruction and satisfying its own desires. It should also be noted that during this time, Europe entered a massive dark ages where no information or knowledge filtered into the country because the Moors controlled all of the seaports and were very strict about what goods and services made it to the European mainland. The Islamic expansion, which brought about the Crusades, lasted for a period of 800 years, from 632 AD to 1492 AD. However, the Muslim slave trade, sometimes referred to as the Arab slave trade, lasted close to 1400 years. And in this time span, the Moors, not the Arabs, because Arab only means desert nomad or traveler, it is not a nationality or race, but in this time, the Moors were estimated to have traded anywhere from 50 million to 100 million slaves, with most of those slaves coming from African countries, and close to 3 million of those slaves coming from European Christian countries.
And here it starts. Islam burst out of the Arabian Peninsula and immediately starts attacking the Middle East. And notice that it doesn't take long until they're crossing the Mediterranean and attacking southern France and Spain. Notice something here. Most people think of Islam, they think of Arabs, they think of desert, and yet here we see that Islam is projecting power throughout the Mediterranean. Notice how the little islands of the Mediterranean are getting hammered. The navy of Islam would attack coastal towns, kill, rob, rape, and then take slaves. So this whole battle map as it unfolds, you're seeing slaves being taken. Over 1 million slaves were taken out of Europe into the Islamic world. That's something you don't think about much, but it's absolutely true. There were over 200 battles fought in Spain alone. And we also see, however, on the east coast in Turkey, that Islam is trying to break into Europe. Now, what's going to happen is, in Spain, this ongoing fight that lasted for 400 years, the Christians are going to push back the Muslims. But now then what has happened over in the east is that Constantinople has fallen, and now then Eastern Europe is getting hammered. The jihad now comes to Eastern Europe. It's pushed out now of Spain. Northern Africa is now completely Islamic. The Middle East is completely Islamic. This is all jihad, relentless jihad. And why is it so relentless? Well, Muhammad was relentless in his jihad. And these people are good students of Islam, and so it's against the kafir, on and on. It was traditional that when the Sultan came to power, the brand new Sultan, he would immediately try to launch new wars because he was going to be noted in his Islamic history as to how well he fought against the kafir. So that's what the jihad looked like over that time period, 548 battles. But remember, when you bring up jihad, people want to bring up the Crusades. So I also prepared a dynamic battle map of all the offensive raids of the Crusaders. Let's watch it and make a comparison. And so it begins. The Crusades enter into Turkey and the Middle East. Battles go on, but aren't there far fewer than you thought there might be? And here we go. The last battles are fought, and that is the end of the Crusades.
And yes, it is true, Africans sold other Africans into slavery. No Caucasians sailed to Africa in regions and into terrain that was completely unknown to them and totally subdued an entire continent of people without those people's help. Roots is not real, people. Alex Haley stole that story from a Caucasian person named Harold Corlander, who wrote The African Slave, while another Jewish Caucasian, the editor of Playboy, Murray Fisher, wrote the rest. So in the real story, it was Africans or Moors selling Africans, Africans buying Africans, Africans selling Europeans, and Africans in other countries buying Europeans. Accounts of the Islamic conquest and Muslim slave trade in those days were horrendous, especially from Caucasians in Christian nations. Depending on what region you lived, the Moors would sail in during the middle of the night, sack a village, take its women and children, and sometimes the men if they had any skills, then be done and gone by sunrise, hence the term midnight marauders, or Moor raiders. Or they would ride into your village on horseback, beheading and burning among other unspeakable acts. One account of a Moorish raid speaks, the cruel Guthrum, a black Danish king, arrived in England in 878 AD at the head of an army of pagan Danes, as cruel as himself, who, like inhuman savages, destroyed all before them with fire and sword, involving cities, towns, and villages with their inhabitants in devouring flame and cutting those in pieces with their battle axes who attempted to escape from their burning houses. All the towns through which they passed exhibited the most deplorable scenes of misery and desolation. Old men lying with their throats cut, streets covered with the bodies of young men and children without their heads and arms, and matrons and virgins who had first been publicly dishonored and then put to death. In another account it is said, it was a common practice among these barbarous pagans to tear the infants of the English from the breast of their mothers, toss them up in the air, and catch them onto the points of their spears as they were falling down. Another, Musa, the Sultan who sent Tariq to invade Spain in 711 AD, quote, Musa himself, when approaching this wretched land across the street of Cadiz and passing on to the Pillars of Hercules, entered the long plundered and godless invaded Spain to destroy it. After forcing his way to Toledo, the royal city, he imposed on the adjacent regions an evil and fraudulent peace. He decapitated on a scaffold those noble lords who remained, arresting them in the flight from Toledo with the help of Oppa, King Eckage's son. He killed them all with the sword. He ruined beautiful cities, burning them with fire, condemned lords and powerful men to the cross, and butchered youths and infants with the sword. Now, a quick side note, much of the military arm of the Moors used to employ most of this destruction on the infidels' towns and villages were made up of Christian Caucasian slaves taken in raids called Mamluks and Janissaries. Mamluk means pale slave, and this was the earlier accounts of the Moors ripping the babies from their mother's breasts, then forcing them to kill, rape, and kidnap their own people. There's no wonder why most Caucasians, especially in America, have a deep-rooted fear of so-called black people. In fact, the kidnapping of Caucasian slaves got so bad during the Crusades and the Muslim slave trade that the Christian Church had to create two religious orders, the Trinitarians and Our Lady of Ransom, with the sole purpose of buying back or ransoming Christian Caucasian prisoners captured by the Muslim raids. Over hundreds of years, they were able to buy back close to 1.5 million captured slaves by the Moors. Another religious order created out of fear of the Moors in the time of the Crusades, in the year 1408 to be exact, was the Order of the Dragon. This order was created by King Sigismund von Luxembourg to defend the Christian church against its enemies at that time, namely the Moors, or the dragon. Its logo is a dragon choking itself with its own tail, again recognizing the fact that only the dragon can kill itself, or only you can kill you. This is where you get the legend of Vlad the Impaler, also known as Dracula, which means son of the dragon, because his father, Vlad Dracul, or Vlad the Dragon, was a member of the Order of the Dragon. As you can see, to the Christians in those days, the Moors were 100 times worse as ISIS is today in the eyes of the rest of the world. However, these are just a few of thousands of horrific accounts like this. This was the beginning of the last downfall. The once infinitely conscious and spiritually connected fathers and mothers of this earth had taken the great knowledge they once used for the elevation and benefit of the planet and began to use it for their own selfish gain, as well as hiding the knowledge from the rest of the world as civilizations began to grow because of the Muslim expansion.
Marshall, Will, and Holly on the routine expedition met the greatest earthquake ever known. High on the rapids, it struck their tiny raft and plunged them down 1,000 feet below to the land of the lost.
What are you kids doing in here? I told you to wait for me.
You saw the cave,
And then she went after that thing.
and then he knocked me over.
I never got a chance to. You pushed me.
No, I didn't.
Oh, yes, you did.
No,
Now,
I
stop
didn't.
it.
No.
Stop it, both of you. What's that? What's that? Come on, get going. Come on. Move. What's that? Move. Let's go.
I can't go any further.
Hey, look up there. A light. Maybe it's a way out. Come on.
Oh, no.
Oh, what? Oh. Behind us, too. Dad, maybe if I get behind me. What did I say? Easy. Dad.
Be careful.
Easy, Dad.
Be careful.
I was right. This is the key to us getting out of here.
Not so much a key as a divining rod.
What? They're going.
Dad, look. They're leaving. Who are?
Enoch, the Altrusian,
Hey, listen. Whoever you are, thanks. Those monsters are...
my ancestors.
Huh?
I am of the generation to be born to this place. 10,000, perhaps 100,000 years from now.
You mean you're not alive yet?
Well, if he isn't, we're talking to ourselves.
It is an elementary deduction. None of us belong here. Like myself, you have fallen through a dimensional doorway. In my case, however, only time was affected, not location. Those monsters are my antecedents. This is the past of my home. I am from its future.
Well, what about the
Maggette. It is a tool for traveling through the universe. I shall use it to return to my time.
Could it help us get back home as well?
That is conceivable if we could fix the proper coordinates.
Hey, that's terrific!
Terrific. You do not understand. The Maggette is for my purposes.
Not on your life.
It is not my life that is in question here.
You said, something about use of force doing something to the Maggette.
The Maggette determines where and when the doorway shall open. Therefore, it was important to build a self-destruct capability into the Maggette. Should some warring species bent on invading other worlds attempt to acquire it through force, hostile and aggressive thoughts could cause it to self-destruct. It is the failure of the human race. They are quick to do battle and quick to destroy. That is why they are inferior.
You mean nobody gets angry where you're from?
Anger is kept in check. That is why my race has endured so long and progressed so far. If it were not for an unknown disturbance that caused a distortion in my journey, I would be with them now. Get down. Why are they firing at us? We are not threatening them.
Well, Enoch, my friend, despite the fact that the Sleestak are your great-great-grandparents, they happen to be vicious and warlike.
That is not possible.
Oh, well, next you'll be telling me that those arrows are Cupid's darts.
Cupid?
Skip it, come on. Is everybody okay? What's the...
I have made a grave error. When I fell through the time vortex, I did not go back in time. I went forward. This is my city. The Sleestak are not my ancestors. They are the barbaric descendants of a people who could no longer keep their anger in check, and eventually destroyed my past. This is not the past. This is my future.
Well, you're not playing fair.
That is an inaccurate assumption. There is only one doorway. Either you shall return, or I shall. I must return, for I must warn my people.
What do you mean, warn your people?
I must warn my kind that what lies in store for them is war and self-destruction. Then perhaps we can yet teach ourselves to curb anger and hate, and so ensure survival in our world.
But what about us?
I am non-refutable.
Then you go back to the others to explain how to keep their anger in check. Tell them that it's all right to destroy those who oppose them, as long as it's done dispassionately, without feeling, without anger.
I do not understand.
It is not the absence of hate that will save your people, but it is the presence of compassion and of feeling. And if you can't grasp that, then your race is doomed forever, no matter what you do.
We are not without compassion. I perhaps have lost sight of this. If the generations to follow commit the same errors, then we shall all perish. I apologize to you all.
Sleestack pit is just ahead.
I hope they fed it today.
Let's just take a look inside and see if there's any Sleestack around.
Dad, are you sure you want to do that?
Listen, it's better to check now than to be trapped down in Edic's cave again. Come on.
Well, seems to be a quiet day for everyone.
Well, at least we know that there's no Sleestack around.
Yeah, even the thing in the pit seems to be asleep. Or full.
Oh, come on, let's get down to Enix's place. Holly will be worried if we're gone too long.
Dad! I'll hold him off, Will. Now run! Dad! I said run!
Put down your weapons, Rick Marshall.
You know my name.
We know many things. There is no point in fighting now. We will both be dead soon enough. That is our God, and this is the hole of no return. When he gets hungry, he will come out, and we will both be devoured.
Who are you? How do you know my name and my language?
We know more than you think, Rick Marshall. You are not the first. Many humans have come here.
And where are those humans now?
They are gone. Some disappear, some die.
Well, I'm not going to die. I'm going to get out of here.
It would be nice to go on living. Yes, but one accepts.
Well, I'm not accepting anything. There's got to be a way to escape from here.
It has happened only once.
There, you see? How was it done?
I do not know. It is only a legend of a thing that happened before the new god was hatched.
Dad, are you down there?
I'm in the pit, Will.
Are you all right?
I'm okay, but I'm not alone.
What does that god thing look like?
I'm not down here with the Sleestack god. I'm down here with the Sleestack.
A Sleestack?
It's okay, he's safe. But we gotta get out of here before that godlike thing gets hungry.
But Dad, I have no way of getting you out.
Go back to the cave and get that long rope, Will.
Hurry! Okay, just hold on, Dad. Just hold on.
He will not make it in time, Rick Marshall. The god is already growing hungry.
When's the last time that thing was fed?
I do not know. I do not take part in the ritual.
What do they call you?
I am called Salach. Do you really think that your son can make it back before the god gets hungry?
Oh, he'll make it back okay if he doesn't run into one of your people or Big Alice.
What is Big Alice?
She's an Allosaurus that lives outside the city.
We call her Selima.
What does that mean?
It means protector. You see, we come from eggs. Selima protects the eggs from the other animals until we are hatched and can join the others.
Let me ask you something. Why are your people hostile towards us?
They are trying to protect the only thing they know is theirs. You see, Rick Marshall, my people exist within this city. They know that our ancestors built it, but they do not know how or why. It is the only thing that my people have to make them secure. Those of our people who have ventured across the split in the earth have never returned, and so we stay here and protect what is ours from anyone who tries to intrude.
But your ancestors must have been extremely intelligent people to have built all of this.
That is true, but our ancestors also became warlike and barbarian. They destroyed each other. Those that remained were the strong and uneducated, and so we are doomed to live the existence we have inherited.
But Slatch, if your people are intelligent like you, we should be able to talk to them so that we can all live in peace.
That is a problem. You see, My people are not intelligent.
But what about you?
I am unique among my people. That is why I am here.
What do you mean?
Every now and then, the genetic traits of our ancestors are born into one of us. I do not know how it happens. I only know that when I came into being, my mind was filled with a knowledge of the universe.
Your ancestors must have been geniuses to be able to construct all of this.
They were very knowledgeable people.
That still doesn't explain to me why you're down here in this pit waiting to be eaten by that god thing.
It is because of my being born with the traits of my ancestors. My people consider me a freak and therefore a threat to their existence. They have left me here to die, as they have all others who have been born like me.
I wonder how high it is at the top of this pit.
It is at least 7 meters.
If I could get a footing on this wall, we might be able to get ourselves out of here.
Your efforts would be useless. We are meant to be consumed by the god.
Not if I can help it. I just wish I had some pitons.
What are these pitons?
They're small steel spikes that mountain climbers use. We could knock them into the wall and climb out of here.
Would these be like the pitons?
Yes. That might work. It just might work. Hand me that rock.
We must hurry if we are to escape. The god is getting hungry.
It shouldn't be too much longer before we're out of here.
We will have to be careful of my people once we are out. They will not understand our helping each other.
We call helping one another brotherhood. It's something that all living beings should make a part of their life.
Yes, it would be good to have this brotherhood.
Hand me another bolt. Slatch! Are you okay?
I have hurt my leg. Go on without me, Rick Marshall. I am meant to end my life here in the pit with our God.
No, you must try and make it.
It is not possible.
It is possible. I'll help you. Now, come on.
You are a true friend, Rick Marshall. I do not believe I can make it any farther.
You can't quit now, Slatch. We're almost to the top.
It is better for me if I perish here and now. My people have rejected me, and I will have no place to go once I am free.
There's a very good reason for you to go on. You must teach your people peace and understanding. You must teach them to better themselves and to live in harmony. That is why you were born with the knowledge that you possess. If you quit now, then you're no better than your ancestors who destroyed this beautiful city and left your people to a barbaric heritage.
You are a very wise man, Rick Marshall. I will continue.
Oh, no, it's Alice.
What do we do now?
She won't bother us. She's too busy eating. Come on, let's circle around her.
Well, we finally made it, Slatch.
You are a man of great courage.
No. I'm just a man trying to stay alive in a very hostile world, that's all.
Yes, that is what it has become.
Well, I've got to get back to Will and Holly. Will you be all right?
Yes, I will be fine now. You have given me new inspiration. I will try to help my people.
I'm sure that you will. Until we meet again.
Yes, until we meet again.
We have to hold him off. Dad, we don't even know what it is.
Oh, I think we're gonna find out. It's a wolf!
Where did this come from?
Don't worry about where it came from, Will. Get your sister out of here now. Hurry!
Okay, come on, Holly, hurry. Hurry, quick, Holly. Hurry. Come on. Careful, Dad. Careful.
Thank you, Slatch. You saved our lives.
You must leave quickly. My people still must feed the god, and it would be unwise for you to stay here at this time.
Yes, but what about you?
I will remain here. You must leave. The god grows hungrier.
Come on, Dad, let's go.
Stop. You will come no farther.
Let it go! Let it go! Come on, let's get out of here. Slatch, you gotta come with us. Come on, let's move.
I guess it'll be all right. I don't think any of the Sleestack followed us from the city.
Hey, I wouldn't be so sure about that.
No. He's okay, Will. This is Slatch.
There is no need to be frightened.
You must be from Enoch's time.
What is an Enoch?
Well, Enoch is one of your ancestors that fell through the time doorway by accident.
Hey, if you're not from Enoch's time, how come you know so much about us?
Oh, he was born intelligent, son.
You mean you were just born smart?
Yes, I was born with the intelligence of my ancestors.
Hey, then you can help us open one of the time doorways to get us home.
That is not possible.
So wait a minute. You told me that you were born with the knowledge of the universe.
That is true. But for some reason, the operation of the pylons and the matrix are not part of that knowledge. I must be going now.
Goodbye, my friend, and thank you. We shall meet again.
Have a long life, Rick Marshall. Farewell.
Now, as you can see from these clips of Land of the Lost, the intelligent reptilian or serpent-like Sleestacks, called Altrusians, from the word altruism, which means the devotion and regard for the welfare of other people. Also, the intelligent reptilian's name was Enoch, but if you just switch the I and the K, the name becomes Enki, one of the creator gods of the Sumerians, the first civilization in the world. The Sumerians called themselves the Sagiga, which means the dark-headed ones. These intelligent Altrusians represent an ancient super advanced race with knowledge of the universe who turned on each other, began to fight, and thus sparked a downward evolution of the race that eventually made them mindless creatures with no purpose. Does this sound familiar? This is how the once revered serpent people of the sacred third eye, or clear sight, became blind, and symbols of evil and destruction, looting, pillaging, raping, burning, and terrifying anyone who opposed our authority. This was the Moor who became depicted as the devil in most European religious art, or the evil fire-breathing beast flying through the air, destroying villages and taking virgin women as sacrifices, or what's better known as the blind dragon Moor.